Introduction to premature gray hair. In a society today where we're constantly being told that the sun is dangerous and we need to put sunblock on every time we go outside, what people don't understand is when you're blocking the sun, you're blocking these UVA rays from getting into the skin to produce that vitamin D. But also, to trigger those melanocytes which are in the hair follicles to produce more melanin. And so, I think that's really important for people to know and understand because, again, we are sun people. For thousands of years, humans have not only worked outside and lived outside, but we spent the vast majority of our time outside in nature exposed to the sun. It didn't matter if you're white, black, fair-skinned. Most people spent most of their time outside in the sun, okay? For hundreds of thousands of years, for millions of years, fully exposed to the sun. I mean, we can go back 70 years ago, and most jobs were outside manual labor jobs. So for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, we were working outside. And you never heard about cancer being the #1 form of cancer, or skin cancer being the kind of cancer that was running rampant. So it's important to know that a lot of things have shifted, okay? And it's also really important to keep in mind that you need sunshine, okay? You absolutely need sunshine, not just to make sure that you're getting those UVA rays from the sun to produce melanin, but also for vitamin D and for other various things like controlling our cortisol levels, which is going to help with our sleep-wake cycles as well. So I just want to put that out there because, again, melanin production is going to be impacted by the sun, but it's also going to be impacted by other things too. But the sun is very important. And the other things that can impact your melanin production are going to be your hormonal imbalance, inflammation, and, our aging process. We naturally age. And as we naturally age, at some point we will start to produce less and less melanin. A large part of that is because as we age, we get more sedentary. We don't spend enough time outside, we're not as active, and we're not as conscious about our diet. So it's not necessarily aging that is the issue in terms of melanin production as it decreases. That's why we tend to get more gray hairs. I think it's a shift in lifestyle. And the reason why I say that is because, as you guys know, I lived in the blue zone for 4.5 years in Okinawa, Japan. The people who spent the most time outside in Ogimi village, those centenarians, people who were living to 100 and living on a lifestyle that was conducive for them living to 100 and eating primarily a plant-based diet, a lot of them were able to maintain their hair color. Okay, so I think it's really important to understand that a lot of things that we attribute to aging are also part of what we think is normal about what we should be doing as we age. Living in that population and seeing other people who were living to 100 and other populations, what I noticed was the consistent thing. They remained active. They remained very conscious about their diet. They spent a lot of time outside in nature. And I think those things are very key and important to maintaining our health and also aging gracefully. So let's get into the major deficiencies and causes of premature gray hairs. So let's start with number 1. Into the major deficiencies and causes of premature gray hairs. So let's start with number 1. Number 1 is copper deficiency. The reason why a copper deficiency could be sort of tagged in with premature gray hair is because the enzyme tyrosinase requires copper to catalyze the action that produces melanin. So if you don't have copper, you won't be able to create that enzymatic activity to actually produce melanin from the melanocytes. Okay, so it's hugely important. A copper deficiency could actually be a part of the problem as to why you're prematurely growing gray hairs, okay? And where can we get copper in our diet? We can get copper from nuts and seeds, avocados, kale, chickpeas, and quinoa. Okay, you're going to see a recurring theme here. Because in our minds, we always think when I'm looking for one sort of supplement, we think that I got to buy this supplement, and this supplement, when you can eat 3 or 4 different foods and get all those in one. So notice that recurring theme as I go through these. So number 1, the first deficiency that you should probably check for is copper deficiency. Okay, it's key in tyrosinase being catalyzed by copper to actually create melanin. Number 2, vitamin B12 deficiency. Vitamin B12 deficiency is one of the most common causes of premature gray hairs. When you have a vitamin B12 deficiency, it can lead to premature graying. Now, I'll probably have to create a whole video on vitamin B12 deficiency because vitamin B12 is not only key for preventing premature gray hairs, but it's also crucial for DNA synthesis and repair as well. It's important to note that when your DNA is impacted, it affects your ability to make protein because protein is made from our DNA, specifically mRNA. So, if you have issues with your DNA and it's not being repaired or synthesized correctly, then you're going to have an issue with synthesizing protein. As I mentioned before, 90% of our hair is protein. If you have a problem making protein, you're going to have trouble not only growing hair, but also putting melanin in the hair, which gives it pigment. Additionally, DNA issues can lead to other problems like cancer and aging, because when DNA isn't repaired, it contributes to the aging process. Addressing vitamin B12 and zinc deficiencies is essential for maintaining healthy hair and overall well-being. Ensuring you have adequate levels of these nutrients can help prevent premature graying and support proper DNA synthesis and repair. This, in turn, aids in protein synthesis, which is vital for hair growth and pigmentation. By addressing these deficiencies, you can promote better health and potentially slow down the aging process. So it's hugely important. This will influence the production of melanin. When you have a vitamin B12 deficiency, it's key to understand that if you go into your checkup and you're told you have a vitamin B12 deficiency, this is something that has to be addressed. Don't take it lightly. One of the primary issues I see is that quite often, they'll say vegans or those who don't consume animal products will tend to have more issues around vitamin B12. But I'll tell you, both vegan and non-vegan are pretty equal in terms of the people who are affected by vitamin B12 deficiency. Another thing that's really important, and I'm probably diving too deep here, is that vitamin B12 doesn't come from animals. It comes from a bacteria. Your stomach acid plays a huge role too. Addressing vitamin B12 can be a bit complicated, so I'll create another video about that. But you have to address it. Quite often, when people get supplements, they just go out and get any supplement. But you need to get a methylated vitamin B12 supplement. You can't just get a regular one, because most people have problems methylating. If you can't get the methylated form of vitamin B12, the unfortunate thing is you probably won't be able to absorb it. Vitamin B12 deficiency is one of the most common causes of premature gray hair, so you have to address the deficiency. When you get that annual exam at the beginning of the year, your goal throughout that year is to correct any and all deficiencies, through food first, through supplementation second, and also through changing your habits. So, vitamin B12 deficiency number 2, number 3, zinc deficiency, and why is that important? Because zinc activates the melanocytes. I told you the melanocytes are the cells that actually create melanin, the pigment responsible for our hair color. When you are zinc deficient, you're not going to be activating those melanocytes to create the melanin. As I said before, hair is 90% protein. Zinc, just like vitamin B12, plays a key role in DNA synthesis, repair, and protein replication. When you have a zinc deficiency, you're going to have issues with DNA synthesis, repair, protein synthesis, and the activation of melanocytes. Most people know zinc for its impact on the immune system and don't know these other roles. So it's hugely important to know and understand this. It's one that has to be corrected.